Today we are going to start a new topic, that is spiral model. We have already gone through the different SDLC models in our previous class. You can see that in my previous video. But now today we will study about some more SDLC models, some advanced SDLC models, but spiral model, which is the basic SDLC model, which we are going to study today. Okay, so before that we have studied about classical waterfall model, iterative waterfall model, prototyping and evolutionary model. Now what is a spiral model? As we all can see here, what is a spiral? First of all, it's a coil shape. Okay, now here we can see these are the SDLC models, continuation of that. Okay, so now our next model is SDLC model, spiral model, sorry. In spiral model, as you can see, there is one structure of a spiral. Okay, now what is this spiral? When we are starting with this, you can see that some loops are there. This is the first loop, this is the second loop, this is the third loop. So how many can be the number of loops in this spiral model? There can be infinite number of loops in the spiral model. Okay, there are many loops. What these loops signify? What are the reason why we are using this kind of model? This kind of model is used at that project or in that project, in which project there is a risk factor. Okay, in the previous models, what we have done that we have gone through some phases, but risk handling phase was not there. But if in a particular project, if there are some certainties that maybe some risk can be there, risk of failure, risk, economical risk or technical risk, any risk, then that kind of project, in that case, the development team hires this kind of model, that is the spiral model. Okay, so there can be many loops. It depends upon how much huge is your project, how much long is your software. Now, what happens with these loops? We have studied in previous model, that is our classical waterfall model. There are some phases. Okay, so these particular loop, first loop, second loop, third loop, in every loop we are going through these phases. That is our requirement analysis, designing, coding, testing, every phase one by one. So every loop is signifying a particular phase. Suppose if this loop is for requirement analysis, then this will be our designing loop, this will be for testing, like this going on. But what happens within these loops? These are for our different phases, but within these particular loops there are 4 quadrants. These loops have been divided into 4 quadrants. What are those quadrants? Let's see. First one is, that is objective setting. Determine objectives and identify alternate solutions. What we are going to do here, suppose this is your requirement analysis phase. First thing, what? Determining the objectives. You have to determine what are the objectives for your particular phase. What thing you are going to do in your particular phase, right? Then what? Then identify alternate solutions. What kind of alternate solutions? Why we are going for the alternate solutions? See, the main basic logic of this model, if we are going to see, that is objective setting. Examining the associated risks. First of all, you are setting the objective, that this is my objective for this particular phase. Then what we are going to do? We are going to see, doing an assessment of what kind of risk can be in my project. As I am going through a project which is having some risk, I know that one, but what kind of risk can be coming in front of me for this particular phase? So what kind of risks are going to come in front of me? That thing which is associated with that objective, means that particular phase, that thing, that risk we are going to just see in this phase. We are not going to do anything, but just you have to identify those risks. Objective identification and your risk assessment. Okay, then after this the phase will go to this. What we are going to do here? Risk assessment and reduction. Here, identifying and resolving my risk. I have identified my risk. What kind of risk is going to come? Here what we will do, we will just resolve the risk in this phase. That is risk assessment and reduction. Detailed analysis of that risk is done here. You have identified your risk. Now you will be doing a detailed analysis of your risk. what kind of risk is this, whether it's an economic risk, whether it's a technical risk, what kind of risk is going to be there in my project. Then you are just doing an assessment, you are resolving the risk step by step, so that your project is now a fresh project which does not have any kind of risk now. It is a totally a fresh project. What we will do next? After risk reduction, that is your next phase. After risk reduction, what we are going to do is that we are going to go to our third level. Here it is development and validation phase. Okay, what we are going to do in the development and validation? You have identified the risk, the risk is removed. Now we will develop the next phase. We will develop the next level of my software. Since I have resolved the risk, now I have to develop it according to the SDLC model. So now you are going to develop for the next level. Okay, now what we are doing next? Review and plan for the next phase. Here you are going to develop the software, but what we have to do? Review and plan for the next phase in our fourth quadrant. What we have to do in the fourth quadrant? That is, we are going to review and plan for the next phase. Now with whom you are going to review and plan? Not with your development team. You are going to review that plan or make the plan for the next phase with the customer. So you can see that after we are going to review that plan with the customer, that means what? We are going to take the feedback of the customer in our fourth quadrant. That is review and planning with the customer. So these are the 4 steps. After this step, what is going to we are going to do? That is, here your particular suppose requirement phase is done. Now you are again going through this, that is up to this here the requirement phase is done. Now from here you are going to start a new phase, that is your designing phase. Suppose if your customer, he is not satisfied with your plan, in reviewing he wants to just give some more features to your particular software, then again this phase will be for requirement phase, again this phase will be done. If he is satisfied, then you will be going to the next level of your software or your project. So this is why we call this particular spiral model a risk handling model. In other different SDLC models what we have seen previously, this particular feature is not present in those models. Okay, what happens here? You can see that infinite number of loops can be there. Since for one particular phase, you cannot say that your customer will be giving you a validation that is, yes, it's okay for the, you can go to the next phase. No, maybe he can invalidate also. So in that case, what we will be doing will be just again you are going to do that phase. Same thing, same whatever things we are going to do here, again same thing you are going to repeat those things. So this is what the whole process goes on. Okay, so this kind of project is only, this kind of model is used by the development team in only those projects where there is a factor of risk handling. Otherwise, what is the use? You cannot use it in a very simple project. If you are having a simple project, the complexity is less, you are not going to go through this project, because here again going through this, so it's for time and budget, both are of your it can be increasing order. Okay, so we have to see that our time limit should be low as well as our budget should be. So we have to see about the budget also. So here, if your project, if your software is not so much lengthy one, or is not having so much risk, then why to use this one? You will be using this only for those models which are complex, for those software, making of those software which are complex and having some kind of risk in the future. Okay, clear? So this is what is our spiral model is. Now one thing about this spiral model, the question which comes every time, that is, this spiral model is known as a meta model. Why this spiral model is known as a meta model? Meta model means spiral model is called the meta model. Okay, why this is called as a meta model? Since this spiral model contains or encompasses all the other models of our SDLC model. Okay, so SDLC model, whatever we have seen, that is our waterfall model, iterative waterfall model, our prototyping model, or evolutionary model. Everything is encompasses in this particular spiral model. Okay, since you have seen that we are going through the steps of this waterfall model as well as iterative model, that is our requirement analysis, designing, testing, everything. So these things are embedded in this. Okay, now here what, if for any particular phase you want to make some prototypes or give that to the customer for his validation, you can use that one also. So this is again the same thing in an incremental way or evolutionary model. We have seen that customer interaction is there. Here also you are seeing that in every phase you are getting one particular phases, you are going on getting the customer interaction, because with the customer interaction we are going to the next phase. So evolutionary model is also embedded in this model. That's why this particular model is known as a meta model. This question every time comes in our examination, that is, why is meta model? Now what are the advantages and disadvantages of this spiral model? What are the advantages? Advantage is that first main factor, that is risk handling. Risk handling is done in this particular model. If you are handling the risk, okay, you are having the interaction of your customer, then what? The chances of error or the chances of failure is much more lesser than other models. Okay, lesser than other models. Then if these things are happening here, but what are the disadvantages? Disadvantages are what? You can use this only for some complex models which are having risk factor for the future. Again, second thing, time limit can be a huge factor here. Since I have already told you that going on through one phase, you are going on repeating that phase, then obviously your time will be increasing. Again, budget will be the factor. Budget can also be increasing if this particular model is being used here. So this particular model is good for those particular projects where you are having a risk factor. If you are having a risk factor, then you will obviously apply this one, because you will not have any kind of model which is having this risk factor. Otherwise, if your particular project is not having so many risks, you can easily go for the prototyping, evolutionary or other models which we are going to see now. Okay, so this is what we are having in our spiral model. Now next model, this was our fifth model. Now what is our next model? That is our V model, alphabet V, that is V model. So mainly V model is called, it's the extension of your waterfall model. Whatever we have seen in our waterfall model, this is the extension, but some other things are added here which is giving a benefit to this. So what is this? Here what happens, as we have seen in waterfall model, phase by phase thing is going on. Requirement analysis, designing, testing, coding, testing, this kind of thing. Huh? But here what happens, here every phase is going within parallel, its testing phase is also going on. The testing phase is going on with the development phase here. How? Let's see. This is our requirement specification phase. Okay. Requirement, gathering and specification. Now, next, what is the next level is our high level coding. Okay, maybe high level designing, that is your designing phase. Next, what we are going to do next, that is our coding phase. So here we'll be having a coding phase. What happens here, as you can see, this is going on our different phases. What is new here? We will be having a structure like this. As we have seen in a waterfall model, what happens? Waterfall model is giving us a structure that is as a waterfall. Here the structure will be as a V model. Okay. So what is happening here? Let's understand step by step. First thing, requirement specification, designing and coding as per our SDLC model. What is new here? New thing is what? When we are going through the phases, this particular thing is known as verification. Verification. Okay. Verification. Now, why this is called verification? Same phases are going on. Because here what we are doing with these particular phases, we are attaching some special thing, that is our test cases. Okay, these are what things? These things are our testing phases. Okay, what is testing phase? After coding, what happens? Unit testing, integration testing, and system testing. You all know that. These are the mainly the SDLC model phases. Now what happens here, when we are going through the particular phase, suppose you are going through a requirement phase. When you are going through the requirement phase, at the same time, you will be having a test case, that will be the system test case. System test case. Okay. Here in designing phase, that will be integration test case. Test case. And for this unit testing, unit test case. So what happens parallelly, as you can see, these are going on parallelly, that is here to here, okay, here to here and here to here. These are going on parallelly. When you are going for the requirement specification phase, what you are doing? You are creating the test case for your requirement analysis phase. That these kind of things will be tested in future for in the testing phase. So you are having a test case for that. Designing that test case is going on within that particular phase, which was not going on in our previously waterfall model. That is our classical waterfall model. Here you are the testing cases you are going on making with the particular phase. After that, in designing phase, you are again making a test case phase, that is your integration test case. In coding, unit test case. So the test cases, what kind of test you are going to do for this particular phase, that test case, the design of that test you are going to make with that particular phase. Now what is the privilege of that? When we are going to that phase, particular testing phase, unit phase, you already have the test case, which was not in the factor of your classical waterfall model. In classical waterfall model, at the time of that phase, when you are going through that unit testing phase, at that time you were making the test case, you were designing that one and you were doing the testing. Here, your testing case is already ready. What you have to do, you will just test that one and your phase is over. Then you will go to this integration phase. Again, in this integration phase, you will go through this one. Again, your test case is ready here. You will be getting that test case and you are doing the testing. Again, in system testing, again same thing. So like this, what happens here, when you are verifying, you are doing the phase, you are doing the development work, as well as you are verifying your work with the help of those test cases. So what is the privilege for that one? Privilege is that your testing phase will be smaller than other models. Okay. Second thing what happens, this is known as the verification phase. Why? You are developing your work as well as you are verifying your work with the help of these test cases. Now, when you are verified with this one, what happens if I am verified with what I have done is correct? Then here what happens? This is called the validation phase. These phases are called the validation phases. So, this is verification. You are working with your project. You are verifying your project is correct or not. And then what you are doing? You are just validating that one. You are validating that your project is correct. Okay. Now, next thing what? When we are verifying and doing the validation, then of course your time span will be also less. Since you are doing here, you are just making the test cases, you are testing. So, the time limit will be also less, since your testing phase will become small. Also, you will have less risk or less failure than other models of the SDLC models. Okay, so this is why we use this V model, since it will be having the same phases as the classical waterfall model, but it will be having a privilege of a shorter test phase. Okay, the test phase will be shorter, as well as you are getting a better test phase, since you are testing it twice. You are making the test case, at that time you are verifying that one, afterwards you are validating that one. Done. So now, what are the advantages of this thing, V model? There should be some advantage and disadvantage for this model also. Yes. So what is the advantage? I have already discussed with you. Advantage is what? In this model, what happens? The testing phase is smaller. So testing phase will be smaller than other phases. Again, when you are having the test cases made before, so it will have the chances of less error. Less error will be there. Okay, since you are having a better test case also. Better test cases are there in this case, this particular phase. But what happens here, one thing which is having a disadvantage, that is, since we are following the waterfall model here also, so what will be happening? Same loopholes which were there in your classical waterfall models, that will be a loophole here also. That is classical waterfall model loopholes, that is no feedback can be done here. You cannot go back to any of the phases. So this is the major loophole of your V model also, as according to your classical waterfall model. Then, so this is also used for mainly that kind of project which we were already doing for the classical waterfall model. That kind of projects can be handled with this V model also. Now the next model, which is the incremental model. Incremental model is working with the same principles or same things as the evolutionary model. So this is our next model, that is incremental model. Now what happens in this incremental model? This mainly works with the specifications of your iterative waterfall model. Then, so what happens? First of all, you are taking the particular phase. Suppose requirement analysis here, requirement analysis phase. You are gathering the requirements, and those requirements, those whole requirements, what you are going to do? You are going to break those requirements in some specific modules, one by one module. Okay. First, what we will do? Suppose this is my module A. Then, so what? I am going to develop first of all, break my whole requirement into some specific modules. First module is my A module. This module will be having some core features or some specific features, not all the features of my software. Some core features will be there in my particular module. Then, what we will do? Incremental means increment, going on increasing. Now, what we'll do? We will then keep this particular module. We will be having, we will be just taking some feedback from the customer. We will give a version to that customer. After developing this, we will give the version to the customer. He will give you some feedback. After getting the feedback, what we are going to do? We will be just implementing. This is our features, having core features module. We will increment those suggestions given by my customer to that particular module. This is my second module, that is my B module. It is having the features which I have already given in my A module, and it will be having all the features which are now being incorporated by my customer. So this is having some new features. This is the new version of my particular project. Again I will develop that one. Again I will provide delivery to my customer. He will be incorporating some more changes there, more features. So what will happen? A, already incorporated features, that is B. Now again some features, that is C. This is now it's my new version now. So in incremental model, what happens? Until and unless you are getting a complete version, that is your complete satisfaction of the customer is done, you are getting a complete version. Until and unless you are getting that complete version, this incremental model will go on. You will give them whatever things you have done in this version, you will give that to your customer. If the delivery will be received, they will give you some features. Again, that will be added in your particular software. Again, a new feature, module is developed with that features, with their core features as well as these new features. Again, this thing is going on, and these things are being developed in your client side here. Okay, these are done in your client side. But what happens here? Here, the first module, when you are working with the first module, it is having all the core features of your particular software. Then upon going on increasing and increasing, you will be getting a new version of your software. As we have seen in the evolutionary model, what was happening there? We were experimenting with our particular software here. So in what we have seen, that in client side, this thing is going on. Okay. Now what happens in this incremental model? What happens here? With every particular phase, some new features are going on adding. You are adding some new features one by one. Here are some features where your core features, you have started with your core features. Now what happens? Just going on from one phase to another or incrementing, modules by modules you are going on adding here. And we are adding the modules, some features are also going on in inbuilding in this particular software. At the end of this whole phase, a complete version with perfect features which are being needed by the customer is here present in your software. So here what happens is the continuous interaction of your customer is here also, as we have seen in evolutionary model also. But what is the main thing? In every phase you can experiment with that phase, as well as you can add some new features in your software here in incremental model. So let's see now what are the advantages and disadvantages of your incremental model. Okay, so these things are going on in your client phase here. In other models it were done in your development phase only, but here development side only, that is your maker side, but here it is going on in your client side also. So now what happens, that is the advantages and disadvantages. What is the advantage? Since you are going on incrementing your software, that means what? The thing is that a reliable software will be your latest version. Reliable version of your software is with you. Second thing, the efficiency of your software will be more than your previous module softwares. Okay, but the main thing which is the main loophole or anything, that is here also we have to interact with the customer continuously. You have to interact with your customer. Going on interaction had to be done here also, but risk handling is not there. So interaction with the customer here also, it's the interaction with customer. That means what? When you are interacting with the customer, he will going on adding some features, and you have to add those features in your particular software. So what happens here? If your customer is going on adding the features, so of course the phases will be more. If your phases are more, time complexity will be more, and as well as your budget will be also greater. So this is what our disadvantage of this model and the advantage of this model. Advantage is very much that you are getting a reliable model, since every time you are interacting with the customer, you are experimenting with your software, and in every phase, particularly every phase, some new features are being added. Suppose in the first 2 or 3 phases, some features which were given by the customer, now some updated features which are coming, that is also inbuilt. That was not a plan at the first time, but in now when we are doing at this time, some updated features are also there. Of course, your software will be an updated version of your software. So this thing can be experimented in this kind of model. Okay, so this was our incremental model. This model is generally used in many softwares in our software companies. Now, regarding these SDLC models, you are free to just ask me your questions. Okay, and if you like my channel, then please like it, give a like, and subscribe my channel so that I can give you more classes for different topics of this software engineering as well as other topics of your technical education.